Compass Mining is your trusted partner in Bitcoin mining. Whether you're investing in one machine or thousands, our customizable solutions are tailored to meet your needs. We are your experts in Bitcoin mining, offering a platform where individuals and businesses can purchase hardware, host machines, and access a range of ancillary Bitcoin mining services. We also specialize in large-scale site development and data center operations. Discover more at compassmining.io and see how we can power your success today. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the official home of power mining analysis, down in Cancun, Mexico for the week, but that's not going to stop the podcast. We have some big news today in relation to the markets in general, a 90-day pause on tariffs between the US and China, and some massive news in the Bitcoin mining space between ABTC, American Bitcoin, Hut 8, and Gryphon. We're going to be covering all that in today's video. Before we get into it, take a second, hit the like button, guys. Feel free to subscribe. And with that being said, let's get into it. Okay, guys, that's right. Monday morning here, and what a start to the week. We're going to get into the big headline news in a second, Anthony. But before we do, the markets themselves absolutely taking off today. A little bit interesting. Bitcoin not necessarily keeping up with some of the other indices. We've talked about that decoupling prior on the channel, but today, really on the backs of this big China-US 90-day tariff pause news, the indices around the world, Anthony, whether we're talking S&P, NASDAQ, up major today, 2, 3, 4%. The stock market in general really following suit today.
Yeah, it was actually quite a good weekend. Actually, Bitcoin price holding nicely above 103,000. And actually, when I woke up this morning, I'm like 13 hours ahead of you at the moment. So Bitcoin had actually gone above 105,000, so I was pleasantly surprised. Then waiting for the market to open, and the pre-market for miners was looking really strong. But we've had a bit of a pullback, down about $3,000 from its day high at the moment, about 102,500. But still, if you look at the 5-day chart there, you can see that it's up over 5% in the last 5 days, and it's looking honestly like it will continue to go through. Maybe we'll get the all-time high towards the end of this week or maybe next week.
Yeah, it does seem at this point it's just a matter of time, Anthony, but interesting to see as, I guess, fear or concerns come out of the regular market, perhaps money flowing back in there. We've talked about Bitcoin being this safe haven asset. Potentially now there's not as much uncertainty or risk in the world, and now some of that money's flowing back into other indices. Now, if we look at the miners themselves, there's one obvious standout here, Anthony. We've been talking about it all morning. Gryphon was up, I don't even know how many 100%, but talk about a strong pre-market, trading excessively today. We looked at the valuation. We'll talk about some of these calculations in a second, but this is really a massive catalyst for the industry. Just a phenomenal showing for Gryphon today. We'll talk about the reasons for that. Obviously, American Bitcoin, Hut 8 involved in the discussion. They're also up around 10% today, but the miners in general, Anthony, again, out of the gate, very strong this morning, pulling back now, and led in a big way by Gryphon.
Yeah, I mean, Gryphon was up, I think, 350% when that news was released, and even now, the stock price is up, way over 100, close to 200%. And if you look at the 1 month change, 850%. And the reason I say 1 month, because that's about the length of time we've had the Miner Madness competition. So those three people, I think, that have got Gryphon in their three choices there are pretty much head and shoulders above everybody else at the moment in terms of massively away. If you look at the nearest miner to Gryphon, Gryphon's up 850% in the month. Bitdeer's up 85%. So that's a factor of 10. And yesterday we were talking about, were any miners up year to date? Well, Gryphon's up 280% at the moment year to date. So having a really good run, and obviously the news of this acquisition, a reverse acquisition effectively. Gryphon have the ticker on the NASDAQ. American Bitcoin company, obviously looking to be quoted on a stock market, and effectively they'll take over the company reverse merger, and then put their own ticker symbol, ABTC, which will be the ticker symbol for the Nasdaq, and they're hoping to complete that by the end of the third quarter of this year. So happening fairly quickly. Obviously, these conversations must have been ongoing over last month, and we've noticed that price pick up, and we couldn't really work out a reason why. Well, today the reasons come out, and obviously American Bitcoin company looking to be a pure play mining company, and maybe looking to acquire more than Gryphon Mining to grow and compete with those miners in the tier one. So we'll keep a watchful eye on that.
Yeah, we certainly will. Now, we've got some excerpts here from the Gryphon website, from the Hut 8 website, and a deck from the American Bitcoin or ABTC website itself. So I wanted to go through these numbers, Anthony, because as you say, a little bit of a convoluted or confusing situation. So Hut 8 was operating, Hut 8 Corp, 100% ownership. ABTC came in, they created a partnership in which Hut 8 owned 80% of that. ABTC would get 20%. Now they've come out and essentially given Gryphon 2% of that ABTC company, remaining the other 98%. So if we look at the market cap of Gryphon before trading today, Anthony, then we'll talk about the craziness. Gryphon's market cap, I think you said, was around $30 million at a 2% valuation. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that would give in terms of valuation for this ABTC?
And the market capitalization at start of play today was about $30 million. It increased significantly. It was actually lower, closer to 10 million a couple of weeks ago. So you've seen this, this increase over the last few weeks, significant increase in share price. We discussed this on previous podcasts. We're just scratching our heads as to why. You look at the market capitalization now; it's 105 million as we speak at the moment. So that's more than twice what it was this morning. And so if you look at this morning's market capitalization, if that represents 2%, that gives a valuation of ABTC of approximately 1.5 billion. And if you think back to Hut 8, when they talked about increasing their Bitcoin mining, they were looking to get somewhere in the region of between 20 and 25 exahash. And 1.5 billion is probably a reasonable valuation for a mining company with that level of exahash. If you think about CIFR mining at the moment, they've got 13.5, and they're over $1 billion. So that would give them a reasonable market capitalization. At the moment, Gryphon's, and as we speak, it's increased now. It's 116 million now. If you were to multiply that by 50 to give the value of the whole company, then you're into, a market capitalization that would be higher than Marathon Digital. And I'm afraid that's not really going to happen with the level of hash rate they've got at the moment. Remember, Hut 8 have got something like about 9.3 exahash last time they submitted an operational update. They haven't produced one for April. That'll be interesting to see if they're going to carry doing that, or stopping those reports coming out. And we know what Gryphon have got, probably close to 1 exahash. So that maybe takes, ABTC now to about 10 exahash. I'm afraid 5 billion would be a sort of an absurd market capitalization for that element of the Hut 8 company.
Yeah, it is a little lofty, Anthony, although we have talked about the fact we feel the valuations of these miners are substantially lower than what they deserve, maybe somewhere in the middle. Now, to your point, Anthony, the other factor here, not necessarily exahash, but there's some big names involved in this company as well. We've got a slide here showing the leadership team. There's also a couple of very interesting words or phrases in this deck. So I wanted to bring up two slides here. The first one is from the executive summary, talking about the objective behind building America's Bitcoin infrastructure backbone. Now, on the left here and the right, you can see the three key objectives: mine efficiently, which you've talked about excessively on the channel, Anthony, both in terms of your fleet efficiency and access to power; building a reserve. So this would imply to me a Bitcoin or a HODL reserve. We've talked about this a lot on the channel. We know Trump and his family are very involved, very invested in crypto now. Potentially, they're looking at a way to mine it themselves rather than buy it. And then finally, lead the ecosystem. Now, on the next slide here, you say, why now? Why us? Seizing the American Bitcoin opportunity, market fragmentation combined with ABTC's expected advantages enables us a path to establish market leadership. So this is one I wanted to touch on for a second. We've talked a lot about our theory that governments are going to get involved in mining. This, to me, Anthony, looks like they're starting to come out with a formalized plan to really become the leader in this space and have ABTC as the US or American hub for Bitcoin mining. Compass Mining makes Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone. Start mining in as little as 48 hours with our turnkey hardware, online and mining directly to your Bitcoin wallet within 2 business days. Find out more at compassmining.io and get started now.
May well be. I'm not sure it's my view at the moment, so I'll wait and see on that one there. We need to see some significant hash rate, and to buy that hash rate and facilities to fit that hash rate, you're going to need significant capital. Yes, they have got, Hut 8's got a hodl of over 10,000 coins. So at today's price, that's over a billion there. But they do have quite a bit of debt on the balance sheet as well. So they're obviously having to repay that there. So time will tell if that strategy you're thinking of there will play out. For me, it's obviously, it looks like a separation of Bitcoin mining away from the HPC, having it as a separate sort of entity within one subsidiary of Hut 8, and this is the American Bitcoin company, and then focusing on the HPC element probably through another subsidiary. And if you think about the discussions we had with Sam Tabar, how companies are not getting the true sort of like market valuations because of maybe Bitcoin mining. I know he was certainly keen to maybe look at showing white fiber as a separate entity to Bitcoin mining, and we'll hopefully have someone in the next week or so as their earnings come out to talk to him and see how that's fulfilling in his plan going forward. But this is early stage for Hut 8. As I say, total of about 10 exahash at the moment. We need some more significant purchases of mining machines and obviously the facilities that these to go into. They do have quite a bit of power. The assumption was some of that power is going to deliver HPC. So we'll see how this plays out. And it's interesting that they want to maintain a Bitcoin mining presence. We've noticed a lot of miners stop increasing the hash rate now and focusing on HPC. Hut 8, like CleanSpark, are using the opportunity to grow more hash rate and develop that. What's interesting with CleanSpark though is obviously they class themselves as the American Bitcoin miner, and now we have Hut 8 having a company called American Bitcoin. So that's going to be an interesting discussion between those two companies, both trying to be the American Bitcoin miner.
America's Bitcoin miner or American Bitcoin that gets involved in mining. So I don't know how Matt Schultz and the team are feeling about that. But you're right, Anthony, about these spinouts. We've heard white fiber from Sam Tabar. We also know that Hive now has Buzz. And then obviously if Hut 8 gets a spin out here, it does kind of make sense. Ultimately, HPC AI is fundamentally different than Bitcoin mining. They both use power and data centers, but past that, a little bit of differences. Now, if we look at the leadership team here, this is the other X factor. So we've obviously got Eric Trump representing the Trump family. Next to him, Mike Ho. He's the chief strategy officer at Hut 8. We've then got Asher Janud, obviously the CEO of Hut 8, and Matt Prushek. So a lot of representation from Hut here and really assembling what looks like a dream team in terms of access to policy and influence in White House, along with operational experience and track record that Hut 8 and now Gryphon brings to the table.
Yeah, we heard about some of the board members when the company was formed there. Matt Prusak as chief executive officer was mentioned there. And it looks obviously a young but experienced board, and all with many traits to bring to the to that leadership team. So this will be interesting to see how this goes forward. Now we want to see, obviously those people who had shares in 8 plus 4 or 5 years have been waiting for news to come through when they were going to start buying some new machines, and we had Asher on the podcast many times through 2024, so he was prepared to wait for the pricing to be right. Then they've gone out there and purchased some machines at really good prices, and they've started to install some of those machines. Now we just need to see what the growth target is. So maybe they put out a presentation and highlight what that target will look like. Now they form this new company because they want to join that top tier. That top tier at the moment, at least 30 exahash, and the majority of that top tier are over 40 exahash. So there's a bit of a way to go for 8, but with that team there, all experienced, who knows where they can get to.
Well, it is a very interesting dynamic. And as you said, Anthony, all of the other tier one miners have essentially slowed or paused their exahash growth. And this is really the only company right now that we talk about or cover in North America that's fully putting their foot on the gas on the Bitcoin mining side of things. So with that being said, you guys, another company that's absolutely flooring the gas pedal right now, Michael Saylor and Strategy. This is getting excessive, Anthony. Another 13,390 Bitcoin. Now up over 568,000. We talked about those interviews where he said, I'd love to get to 5, 7.5, 10%. We thought it was almost a bit of a joke, but it appears he is dead serious about getting to 5 or 10% of global Bitcoin supply.
Yeah, it's becoming relentless. But he's sticking to the strategy. The market likes the strategy. They're giving him a premium, whereas they're not giving the miners a premium, those that hodl. So Fred Thiel at Marathon will be wondering why he's not getting any recognition for the fact that they hold 48,000 plus Bitcoin. But Michael Saylor over the last 12 months has effectively, nearly bought as much Bitcoin through strategy as the largest ETF, BlackRock, have bought as well. So they're both sort of like heading towards 400,000 just in the last 12 months. This is 13,390 doesn't sound a big number, but just to put that into context, CleanSpark they've been hodling Bitcoin for over the last few years, and their total at the moment is just over 12,000. So he's just gone and bought 1,000 more Bitcoin than actually CleanSpark hodl at the moment today. And, he'll end up probably coming out with another update next week to show that they've bought another, 13, 14, 15,000 Bitcoin. It doesn't seem to be stopping whatsoever. And time will tell again with this strategy if he's done it. I mean, I have sort of reservations about organizations having that amount of Bitcoin because we're in here because it's decentralized, and it looks like two of the biggest entities now have probably got more than 5% between them of all the Bitcoin that's ever going to be produced. And once you start taking account of maybe the 3.7 million Bitcoin potentially lost, that percentage is even higher of the available Bitcoin, which is probably like just over 17 million. So when two entities have got the best part of 1.2 million Bitcoin, that's a sizable amount of the total, and they're not stopping. Another way of looking at it, though, I suppose it's the shareholders that own strategy. So the shareholders, of which there are millions of strategy shareholders, they obviously have a stake in Bitcoin, and with the ETFs, it's individual investors or institutional investors who own the Bitcoin as well. So I suppose you could look at it from that context and maybe think actually it is decentralized because it's not one person having it; it's an entity with millions of people within that entity.
Yeah, it's kind of a debate, I guess, Anthony, because they don't actually hold the keys. And at some point, all of this Bitcoin is consolidated into one wallet. So you and I have talked about the risk there. Even if all these shareholders do own shares of the company, they don't necessarily have access to the Bitcoin themselves. It is held in one centralized location. The other key word you brought up there is available Bitcoin. There's a big difference right now between total Bitcoin and available. As you and I talk about, Anthony, we don't plan on selling. Michael Saylor doesn't plan on selling. And I think there's a couple others out there that are holding on to their coins as well. Now, the final piece of news, an interesting one. I wanted to bring this up because it's your neck of the woods. We talk about Europe kind of being a lagger in terms of Bitcoin adoption. Our good friend, Conor McGregor, known for his UFC fame, I guess, is now running for a leadership position of Ireland. He said that he wants to enact a Bitcoin reserve in Ireland. He's also now tweeting to the pub key, talking about setting up a Bitcoin bar in Ireland. So maybe the tables have turned, Anthony, and Europe is starting to come on board.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we're getting a lot of, even in the UK at the moment, we had an Olympic gold medal boxer has just become the mayor of Hull. And so, you're getting some of these like personalities, social media personalities, breaking into politics, using their massive following to galvanize votes. And obviously, Conor McGregor's thinking, he can do it. I mean, I'd imagine the analogy would be that Mr. Beast or someone like Jake Paul or his brother could be the next president of the US, if you look at that analogy. But again, it's down to the voters. If they think that Conor McGregor can do a great job in Ireland, then so be it. But Ireland, I think they've got the second highest GDP of all the countries in Europe. So they're a very strong, financially balanced country at the moment. Far more so in terms of per capita than the UK, albeit they're a much smaller entity. But if you look at it from a per capita point of view, I think only Switzerland is ahead of Ireland. So yeah, so they've been a strong economy doing really well. So it'll be interesting to see if McGregor can get the votes required to be elected into any political post. As time will tell.
Yeah, very interesting, Anthony. As people and individuals around the world continue to get orange-pilled, pile into the Bitcoin mantra here. So we talked about the big headlines here driving the market today, you guys. But in closing, a 90-day pause on tariffs between China and the US. This gives the market a little bit of breathing room. It appears people are happy about this outcome or this stability now for the next 3 months. And again, Anthony, looking at Bitcoin just shy of 103,000. So hopefully Bitcoin can follow suit, catch up to some of these other indices, and the miners will rally. But either way, a very strong start to the week for markets in general, for Bitcoin miners, specifically Gryphon and Hut 8.
Yeah, absolutely. And that 3 months might give some of those miners a little bit of leeway to get their machines over from China before those tariffs come in, because I know a lot of them were rushing to get machines delivered. IREN mentioned it in their update there, and there'll be other companies out there that are looking to replace older machines, not necessarily growing hash rate, but looking to replace older machines to get their efficiency up there as the margins are getting squeezed in terms of difficulty, in terms of power costs. So having the most efficient miners will help them get some sort of margin there. But yeah, good news today. Markets reacted to it. Bitcoin price down, but hey, Bitcoin price has done really well since the last 3 or 4 weeks when it hit 76,000, and people who bought in at that level there will be smiling comfortably at 102, 103,000 today.
No kidding. Well, that's a good start to the week. We'll leave it there. You guys, let us know in the comment section below how you're feeling about the markets in general and specifically the miners. Also, what you think of this ABTC move or American Bitcoin. Very unique, very interesting. Hit the like button. Feel free to subscribe. We'll see you back here tomorrow.